The night air over Manhattan felt too polished, too perfect, almost as if the city itself were holding its breath. High above the streets, on the rooftop of a glass-walled lounge overlooking the skyline, Eric Dalton stepped out of a black car as if he belonged among the glittering towers. He straightened his navy suit jacket, flashed a practiced smile, and held out his hand for the woman stepping behind him. Sienna Blake, 24, all legs and angles, wrapped her arm around his waist. Her sequined dress caught every stray beam of city light. She lifted her phone immediately, turning her face toward the skyline, angling for that perfect Manhattan shot. The music thumped low, the kind that made people think they were living a bigger life than they were. "Eric, stand closer," she said, not looking at him, checking her reflection instead. "The followers love when you look at me like I'm the only woman here." Eric did exactly that. He wasn't in love, but he loved the way people stared when he arrived with her. He loved the illusion of success she helped him perform, even though his bank account was screaming and his career was crumbling behind the scenes. A waiter passed with champagne, and Eric took a glass without hesitation. "To new chapters," he said. "To upgrades," Sienna corrected with a wink. In a far corner of the rooftop, a small circle of fashion influencers noticed them. One whispered, "Isn't he married?" Another answered, "Not for long, apparently. I heard he's trading in the old one." They all giggled, the shallow kind of giggle that disappears before it reaches the eyes. Eric didn't hear them. He was too busy rehearsing his speech for investors he hoped to charm tonight. Investors who didn't know he'd already been flagged for suspicious behavior at his old firm. He took another sip, chest swelling with a confidence he had no right to feel. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced down. A name appeared across the screen. Lauren. OB appointment. For one tiny second, just a fraction of a breath, something in him tightened. But before the impulse to care could fully form, Sienna leaned over his shoulder. "Who's that?" He clicked the side button instantly, turning the screen black. "Nobody," he said. "Let's get inside." Sienna smiled, satisfied, and tugged him toward the lounge doors. Inside, men in tailored suits and women in gowns glittered beneath crystal lights. Cameras flashed. Voices rose. Eric tried to pretend the ignored call didn't matter, that the pregnant wife sitting alone in a small Queens apartment wasn't thinking he would show up for her tonight. He smoothed his hair, adjusted his smile, and stepped forward. But someone else had seen the name on his phone. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. Someone who knew exactly who Lauren was and who her father was. And that someone was already dialing Richard Hayes. Lauren Hayes Dalton sat quietly at her small kitchen table, the one she and Eric had bought secondhand from a neighbor when money was tight. The Queen's apartment around her felt unusually still, almost too still for a Thursday afternoon. She traced her fingers over the edge of a half-finished watercolor painting, soft blue skies, tiny stars, a warm little moon. It was meant to hang in the nursery once she finished it. She had imagined Eric helping her put it up, laughing as they argued about whether the crib should face the window or the door. Back then, they had shared dreams, fragile but sweet. Now she was the only one dreaming. Her laptop sat open to a blank lesson plan. She'd promised her principal she would help with art curriculum work until her maternity leave officially ended. But she had been staring at an empty document for 2 hours. Her mind simply refused to settle. Every movement of her child, every tiny kick sent her heart racing with a mix of warmth and fear. She wanted to protect this baby more than anything, but things were unraveling faster than she could hold them together. Bills were stacked on the counter, hospital payments, utilities, insurance. She and Eric had agreed months ago to practice tight budgeting until after the baby arrived. But lately she'd noticed things that didn't add up. Eric's sudden interest in expensive suits, his new cologne, late-night client dinners, and the smell of perfume on his shirts, perfume she did not wear. She told herself she was imagining things. Pregnancy made emotions unpredictable, didn't it? That's what Eric always said when she worried. She reached for her phone, hoping for a message from him. Nothing. He had said he'd be busy closing a deal in Midtown, but he usually still checked in at least once. She rubbed her belly gently, whispering, "Daddy's just busy today, okay?" But the words felt thin, almost dishonest. She stood, moving slowly. At 6 months pregnant, standing up required balance and patience. She walked to the window overlooking the street below. Kids were laughing as they ran past the building, dragging backpacks and scooters. An older couple walked a dog wearing a tiny sweater. The world felt normal out there, safe, predictable. Nothing like the tightening knot in her chest. Her phone buzzed. She snatched it up, then exhaled in disappointment. It wasn't Eric. It was a message from her friend Megan, a nurse who had been checking on her regularly. "You okay today? Need anything? Want me to stop by?" Lauren typed, "I'm fine, just tired. Eric's working late again. I'll rest a bit." But the moment she hit send, her throat tightened. She wasn't fine. And if Megan walked through the door right now, Lauren wasn't sure she could hold the tears in. A knock sounded. Her heart lifted. Maybe Eric had surprised her after all. She waddled to the door, excitement bubbling inside her like a child hoping for a miracle. But when she opened it, a delivery man handed her a large Amazon box. "Delivery for Lauren Dalton." "Oh, thank you," she forced a smile. It was the baby monitor she had ordered, a practical, affordable one, nothing fancy. She carried the box inside, setting it gently on the floor. Something about it, the tape, the brown cardboard, the reality of preparing alone, hit her harder than she expected. She sat on the couch and hugged the box to her chest. Tears rolled before she could stop them. "I don't want to do this alone," she whispered to the empty apartment. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Eric. But instead of a message, it was a declined call notification. He had ignored her call from earlier. And she had no idea that he was currently on a rooftop in Manhattan with another woman wrapped around him, while she sat here whispering to their unborn child. And the storm had only just begun. The door clicked open at nearly midnight, breaking the heavy silence in the apartment. Lauren sat on the couch, her legs tucked beneath her swollen belly, pretending to watch the muted TV. She had been waiting for hours long enough for her hope to sour into worry, and worry to curdle into fear. When she heard Eric's footsteps in the hallway, she straightened her posture, brushing her hair behind her ears the way she used to when she wanted him to think she looked put together. Eric walked in smelling of something sharp and floral, a perfume too bold to belong to anyone from his office. His shirt was wrinkled, the collar slightly stained with a faint rose-colored smudge. He loosened his tie, tossed his jacket onto the hallway chair, and acted as if nothing was out of place. "You're still up," he muttered, not quite meeting her eyes. Lauren swallowed the lump in her throat. "I just wanted to make sure you were okay. You didn't answer my texts." "I told you I had a client dinner," he said flatly. "That was at 7, Eric. It's almost midnight." He paused, annoyed, as if the simple math were somehow unreasonable. "Deals take time. You wouldn't understand how my world works." "When?" There it was, that sentence that had begun creeping into their marriage over the past 2 months. "You wouldn't understand." As if she were a burden, as if teaching children and carrying his son made her less capable of understanding life. Lauren rose slowly from the couch. "I made dinner. It's cold now, but I can heat it up." "I already ate," he said, running a hand through his hair. "We went to a place on 5th Avenue, new spot, trendy crowd." Lauren's stomach dropped. 5th Avenue was not a client dinner place for someone on Eric's salary, not unless someone else was paying. And the perfume, the smudge on his collar, the way he'd said, we'd all added up to the truth she didn't want to face. She forced her voice to stay steady. "Who did you go with?" Eric finally looked at her, irritation flashing across his face. "Why does it matter?" "Because I'm your wife," she whispered. "And I'm 6 months pregnant with your child." He scoffed. "Don't turn this into drama, Lauren. You know how stressed I am. You questioning me right when I walk in the door? It's too much." She placed a protective hand over her belly, instinctively shielding their child from the crackling tension. "I'm not questioning you. I'm asking you to talk to me. You've been distant. I hardly see you. I just want to know what's going on." "What's going on is that I'm carrying this family financially," he snapped, "while you sit at home painting clouds and waiting for me to fix everything." The words slammed into her chest. She blinked, stunned. "Eric, I lost my job because the school downsized. I wanted to keep working. You always have an excuse," he interrupted. "You think raising a baby gives you the right to judge my every move?" "I'm not judging you," she said softly. But her voice trembled, betraying her. Eric grabbed a glass from the counter and poured water as if he needed grounding. Look, I can't do this right now. I'm exhausted. I have a million things on my plate. So do I, she whispered. I'm scared. Eric. He exhaled sharply, annoyed rather than sympathetic. I'm going to bed. Lauren watched him disappear down the hallway, his silhouette swallowed by darkness. She wanted to chase after him, to beg him to stay, to remind him of the promises they made. But something held her still, something cold, something sharp. Because for the first time, she sensed the crack in their marriage wasn't new. It had been growing quietly, like a fault line under her feet. And tonight, she felt it shift. The morning sun crept through the blinds far earlier than Lauren wanted it to. Her eyes were heavy, her head ached, and her stomach felt like it had been tied in knots. She'd barely slept after the argument with Eric, replaying every word until her chest hurt. But today wasn't just any day. It was her follow-up ultrasound, the one the doctor said was important to monitor the baby's heart rate. Eric knew this. He had nodded absently when she reminded him last night, barely listening, already scrolling through messages on his phone. Lauren sat on the edge of the bed, breathing slowly as she waited for the dizziness to settle. She had read somewhere that stress could affect the baby's development, and she truly tried to push her fears away. With careful hands, she slipped into a simple maternity dress and tied her hair back into a loose ponytail. She looked in the mirror, startled by how pale she seemed. Today will be okay, she whispered to herself. We'll be okay. She grabbed her medical folder and stepped into the kitchen. The apartment was silent. Eric had already left. No note, no message, not even a cup of coffee left brewing for her. Lauren forced herself not to cry. She called him once, hoping he might at least pick up. The phone rang twice, then cut straight to voicemail. She stared at the screen for a long moment before turning it face down on the counter. Outside, the city felt especially loud. Horns blared, buses hissed at stops, and someone yelled from across the street. Lauren held her belly protectively as she shuffled toward the subway. Just getting down the stairs took effort. Her center of gravity felt different every day now. On the train, she sat between two strangers who didn't look up from their phones. A woman next to her sipped from a Starbucks cup, scrolling through pictures of a rooftop lounge, women in sequins, champagne glasses, and a skyline view. Lauren didn't know that one of those photos had Eric in the corner of the frame. She pressed a hand over her heart, took a calming breath, and closed her eyes until her stop. At the clinic, the waiting room smelled faintly of disinfectant and hand sanitizer. Women sat with their partners, some laughing softly, some leaning on their husbands' shoulders. One dad-to-be held his wife's purse while she filled out a form. Another man was rubbing his partner's back, whispering something sweet. Lauren lowered herself into a chair, clutching her medical file, feeling the emptiness beside her like a physical ache. She sent Eric another text. Arrived at the clinic. On the train, she sat between two strangers who didn't look up from their phones. A woman next to her sipped from a Starbucks cup, scrolling through pictures of a rooftop lounge, women in sequins, champagne glasses, and a skyline view. Lauren didn't know that one of those photos had Eric in the corner of the frame. She pressed a hand over her heart, took a calming breath, and closed her eyes until her stop. As the machine hummed, the screen flickered to life with a small, moving silhouette. Lauren's breath caught every time she saw her baby. Her heart broke and healed at the same time. But then the nurse frowned slightly. Lauren's pulse quickened. Is this something wrong? Oh, I'm sure it's fine, the nurse said quickly, but her eyes had shifted into a professional focus Lauren recognized too well. Let me just call the doctor in to double-check something. Zhang. The room suddenly felt too small, too quiet. The door opened, and the doctor stepped in, his expression calm but serious. He looked at the monitor, adjusting the probe gently. The baby's heart rate is a bit irregular today, he said softly. It's not dangerously low, but we want to monitor it closely. Stress can play a role, so it's important you rest and avoid emotional strain. Lauren swallowed hard, blinking back tears. I'm trying, she whispered. They'll call me soon. No response. When the nurse finally called her name, Lauren stood and followed her into the dim ultrasound room. The walls were decorated with soft watercolor paintings, ironically, similar to the kind she used to teach her students to make. The nurse helped her onto the table, lifted her dress slightly, and applied warm gel to her belly. "Let's take a look at your little one," the nurse said cheerfully. "Is the father joining us today?" the doctor asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. The doctor didn't press further. His gentle silence said enough. After the appointment, Lauren stepped outside into the cold air and exhaled shakily. Cars rushed past, people hurried around her. The city buzzing with life she felt completely detached from. She pressed a hand to her belly. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm here for you." Her phone buzzed. Her heart leapt. Eric? No. She kept one hand on her belly, as if protecting her child from the truth. Eric was already home. Not only that, he was packing. Lauren froze in the doorway, her keys dangling from her fingers. The air left her lungs before she could make a sound. Eric stood beside an open suitcase on the bed, flinging shirts inside with careless, jerky movements. "Eric." Her voice came out thin, unfamiliar. "What? What are you doing?" He didn't look at her at first. He zipped up a compartment, grabbed another handful of clothes. Then he turned, and his eyes were colder than she'd ever seen. "I'm leaving, Lauren." The words hit her like a slap. She stepped forward, gripping the doorframe for balance. "Leaving? What do you mean, leaving? We have a baby coming. I had the appointment today. They said." "I know what they said," he snapped. "You texted me 10 times about it." "Because you didn't answer," she whispered. He let out a breath. Annoyed. "I can't do this. I can't live like this anymore. You're suffocating me. Everything is about the baby, the bills, your emotions. I feel trapped." Lauren blinked hard, feeling tears prick behind her eyes. "Eric, I'm 6 months pregnant. I need you. Our baby needs you." He scoffed. "The baby will be fine. You've made this pregnancy your entire personality. It's exhausting." Her hands shook. "What about us?" Eric hesitated for a moment, then rolled his suitcase toward the door. "I've met someone else. Someone who doesn't drag me down. Someone who actually fits into the life I want." Lauren's breath stilled. "Sienna," she whispered. His jaw didn't tighten. His eyes didn't flicker. He didn't deny it. Instead, he shrugged. "She understands ambition. She understands appearances. She actually motivates me. And I don't?" Lauren choked out. "You used to," he said. "Not anymore. Now you're just holding me back." "Well." Her knees weakened, and she steadied herself with a hand on the wall. "Eric, please don't do this. I can't go through the rest of this pregnancy alone. I had a scare today, and the doctor said—" "Stop," he cut her off. "I don't want guilt thrown at me. This isn't about the baby's heart rate or whatever. This is about us not working." She stared at him, unsure if she heard him correctly. "Whatever." He rolled his eyes. "God, you twist every word. Look, I'm done explaining. I'm leaving. I've already signed a short-term lease in Midtown. I'm moving in tomorrow. Sienna's helping. But where do I go?" Lauren whispered, panic rising like a wave. "I don't have a salary anymore. We can't afford 2 rents. But you'll figure it out," he said flatly. "Maybe go back to your dad, wherever he is now. Pennsylvania, right?" Lauren's lips parted in disbelief. He didn't even know. He had never known. "I trusted you," she said, her voice breaking. Eric paused at the door, hand on the knob. "People change. I changed. You didn't." He stepped out into the hall. Lauren staggered after him, tears blurring her vision. "Eric, please don't walk away from your family." He didn't turn around. Not once. And as the door shut behind him, with the finality of a slammed fate, Lauren clutched her belly and sank to the floor, realizing the truth. Eric wasn't coming back. And he had no idea who he had just betrayed. Because someone else had already started watching every move he made, and they were done staying silent. Lauren didn't know how long she stayed on the floor after Eric walked out. Minutes? Hours? The apartment felt colder without him, colder than the winter draft creeping in through the old window frames. She curled forward, one arm wrapped protectively over her belly, the other wiping tears that refused to stop. "Lauren," she greeted warmly, though her tone carried the efficiency of a boardroom. "It's good to see you safe." Lauren forced a smile. "Hi, Dana." Dana exchanged a look with Richard, quick, calculating. We've gathered everything on Eric Dalton. Financial inconsistencies, client concerns, and other things. Lauren stiffened. No. Please. I don't want this turning into some kind of war. Dana raised an eyebrow. Your husband walked out on you 6 months pregnant. So, while waiting, Lauren forced herself to stand. She wandered through the apartment in a daze. Eric's side of the closet was empty. His cologne bottle was gone from the bathroom counter. His toothbrush, missing. A few stray hangers swung silently, mocking her with their emptiness. On the nightstand sat a framed picture from their wedding, Eric lifting her during their first dance, both laughing. She picked it up with trembling hands. For a moment she stared, searching the frozen faces for any sign that this ending had been predictable. But all she saw was a girl who believed she had married a good man. With shaking fingers, she placed the frame face down. A knock sounded at the door. Megan, breathless, still wearing scrubs from the hospital. She pulled Lauren into her arms, holding her tightly. It's okay, Megan whispered. I've got you. You're not alone. The moment of comfort cracked something open in Lauren. Tears poured uncontrollably. I can't do this, she cried. I can't raise this baby alone. I don't have a job. I don't have savings. I don't have savings. Stop, Megan said firmly. You can. You will, but you won't do it alone. Lauren shook her head, sinking onto the couch. You didn't hear what the doctor said today. The baby's heart rate is irregular. Stress can make it worse. And Eric just walked away. Megan's eyes darkened with anger. Eric is garbage. But your baby needs you to breathe. One breath at a time. I'm here. We'll figure this out. Lauren pressed her hands together hard, knuckles trembling. I don't even know how to pay rent next month. We'll deal with that, Megan said, but Lauren could see the hesitation flash briefly across her friend's face. Lauren swallowed. I might have to call him. Megan stilled. Your father? Lauren nodded weakly. I don't want to. You know what happened. I haven't spoken to him in 2 years. Megan sat beside her. But you also know he'd rather set Manhattan on fire than let something happen to you. Lauren covered her face. He warned me about Eric. He said I was rushing. He said Eric was ambitious in the wrong ways. I told him he was controlling my life again. I walked away. And now, her voice cracked. Now I'm scared he'll say, I told you so. Or worse, he won't care. Megan took her hands gently. Lauren, he's your father. And he's not just any man. He's Richard Hayes. Lauren's stomach twisted. That name carried weight, money, power, expectation, cold boardroom decisions, headlines, intimidating presence. She had run from that world for a reason. She didn't want her child raised under the shadow of a billionaire dynasty. But she also couldn't ignore the truth. She needed help. Her body trembled again, fear, exhaustion, heartbreak, all merging into something unbearable. And then a sharp cramp rippled across her abdomen, stealing her breath. Megan's eyes widened. Lauren? Are you okay? Another cramp. Stronger. Lauren doubled over, gripping the couch. I think something's wrong, she gasped. Megan grabbed her coat. We're going to the hospital. Now. As she helped Lauren to her feet, neither of them noticed the message flashing silently on Lauren's phone. An unknown number, a name she hadn't seen in years. From Richard Hayes. I heard something happened. I'm coming. Lauren sat in the hospital bed, propped against stiff white pillows, her hands trembling over the thin blanket. The cramping had slowed, but the fear hadn't. Nurses moved in and out, checking monitors, murmuring reassurance, telling her that stress could trigger false labor, but they needed to observe her overnight just to be safe. Every beep of the fetal monitor felt like a countdown she wasn't ready for. Megan stood beside her, arms crossed tightly, watching the hallway like she expected danger to walk through it. Then danger or salvation actually did. The door slid open, and a tall figure stepped inside, a man in his early 60s, tailored charcoal overcoat, silver hair, presence sharp enough to silence the entire room. His entrance carried the quiet force of someone used to people making space for him. Even the nurse paused mid-step. Richard Hayes, billionaire, powerhouse, her father. Lauren's breath caught. For a moment, neither of them moved. 2 years of silence pressed between them, 2 years of pride, anger, regrets, unsaid. Megan stepped aside silently, giving them space. Richard's eyes scanned the room, taking in the monitors, the IV line, Lauren's pale face. His jaw tightened, a barely contained storm. "Why didn't you call me earlier?" His voice was low, controlled, yet edged with something fragile. Lauren swallowed. "Because we haven't spoken in a long time." "Ren? That wasn't my choice." His gaze flicked to her belly. "And you're carrying my grandchild. I should have been told." She looked down, tears blurring her vision. "I didn't want to drag you into my mess." Richard stepped closer, softening. "Lauren, you could never drag me into anything. You're my daughter." There it was, the warmth buried beneath years of tension. The part of him she once loved, before expectations and family battles drove them apart. She wiped her cheeks. "I didn't want you to think you were right about Eric." Richard didn't flinch. "Lauren, whether I was right or wrong doesn't matter. What matters is you're here, scared, and carrying a baby who needs stability." Lauren hesitated, fear creeping back into her chest. "Dad." He left. He said horrible things. "And now I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can keep the baby safe." Richard's expression darkened like thunder. "He left you while pregnant?" Laura nodded. He exhaled slowly, but fury simmered in the shadows of his voice. "Then he's made the biggest mistake of his life." Megan stepped forward, arms crossed. "He didn't just leave. He humiliated her, packed his things, and walked out like she was nothing." Richard's hands curled at his sides. "What's his name again? Eric Dalton?" Lauren nodded weakly. Richard took out his phone. "I assume he doesn't know who the Hayes family really is." Lauren's voice trembled. "No, he always thought I was just a small-town girl." Richard's jaw tightened. "Good. Then he has no idea what kind of war he just started." Lauren's chest tightened. "Dad, this isn't about revenge." He looked at her with surprising gentleness. "This is about protection and consequences. He doesn't get to leave you like that. Not my daughter. Not the mother of my grandchild." Her lip trembled. She wasn't sure if she wanted to argue or collapse into his arms. A nurse re-entered with a chart. "We're going to keep you overnight for monitoring. Try to avoid stress." Richard stepped toward the nurse. "I'll make sure she has everything she needs." Lauren let out a shaky breath. "Dad, please don't make this harder." Richard's gaze softened again. "I'm not here to control you, Lauren. I'm here because you needed someone, and I should have been here sooner." Silence wrapped around them, heavy, emotional, healing in small pieces. Then Richard added quietly, "And I promise you this, I won't leave your side again." He sat in the chair beside her bed, posture straight, watchful, protective. For the first time in months, Lauren felt a small sense of safety return. But as she drifted into sleep, one final thought haunted her. If Richard was here, then Eric's world was about to collapse. Lauren had never felt smaller in her life than she did the next morning when Richard drove her from the hospital to his penthouse. Even the elevator ride was surreal. Smooth, silent, rising into the clouds. She had taken this elevator many times in her 20s back, when she still lived under her father's empire, but stepping inside now felt like returning to a world she no longer belonged to. Richard stood beside her, hands clasped behind his back, giving her space. He didn't hover. He didn't pry, but he watched her with quiet intensity, as though he wanted to memorize every sign of exhaustion, every tremor in her hands, every unspoken fear. When the elevator doors opened, the penthouse greeted them with warm golden light spilling across polished marble floors. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over Central Park, the morning sun turning the treetops into a field of glittering gold. The space smelled faintly of cedar and the rich aroma of the building's luxury air system. To Lauren, it felt like stepping into someone else's reality. Richard spoke softly. "You're home. For as long as you need." Lauren exhaled, overwhelmed. "Dad, this place, it's too much." "No," he said gently. "You've just been living with too little." A housekeeper hurried in, startled but smiling warmly. "Miss Lauren, it's so good to see you again." She offered Lauren a glass of water, then glanced discreetly at the small swell of her belly with soft eyes. "You rest. We take care of everything." Lauren felt herself tense. The pampering, the staff, the wealth. Everything she tried to escape years ago felt too close, too suffocating. She moved toward the window, needing air. Below her, Central Park shifted with joggers, strolling couples, dog walkers. A world still normal. A world she used to belong to, before money twisted her childhood. Before she ran to build a life untouched by wealth. Richard approached slowly, stopping at a respectful distance. "Tell me what's worrying you." She hesitated. "I don't want my baby to grow up in a world where money decides everything." His expression softened. "Money doesn't decide everything, Lauren, but it protects. And you need protection right now." Her shoulders sagged. "It feels like I'm losing control. First Eric leaves, now I'm here again, in this world I tried so hard to step out of." Richard nodded. "You built a good life on your own. I respect that. Truly. But strength isn't pretending you don't need anyone. Strength is knowing when to accept help." She blinked away sudden tears. "I don't want you fighting my battles." "Then I won't," he said. "I'll fight mine." She frowned. "What does that mean?" But before he could answer, the penthouse door opened, and Dana Brooks, Richard's COO, stepped inside. Dark blazer, sharp eyes, air of a woman who lived and breathed strategy. "We take care of everything." Lauren felt herself tense. The pampering, the staff, the wealth, everything she tried to escape years ago felt too close, too suffocating. She moved toward the window, needing air. Below her, Central Park shifted with joggers, strolling couples, dog walkers. A world still normal. A world she used to belong to, before money twisted her childhood. Before she ran to build a life untouched by wealth. Richard approached slowly, stopping at a respectful distance. "No, he always thought I was just a small-town girl." Richard's jaw tightened. "Good. Then he has no idea what kind of war he just started." Lauren's chest tightened. "Dad, this isn't about revenge." He looked at her with surprising gentleness. "This is about protection. And consequences. He doesn't get to leave you like that. Not my daughter. Not the mother of my grandchild." Her lip trembled. She wasn't sure if she wanted to argue or collapse into his arms. A nurse re-entered with a chart. "But Eric's actions have consequences, and he's about to face them." Lauren's breath hitched. "I don't want him destroyed." Richard answered softly but firmly. "He destroyed himself." Silence settled between them. Outside, the city glowed. Inside, the air thickened with decisions, consequences, and the quiet beginning of a reckoning. Lauren pressed a hand to her belly, the baby fluttering beneath her palm. She whispered, almost to herself, "I just want peace." "WW." Dana's voice was gentle but resolute. "Then we'll make sure you get it." But deep in Lauren's chest, a new fear formed ADS, because she knew peace often came only after the storm finished tearing everything apart. Los Angeles looked exactly like the dream Eric had always chased: palm trees swaying lazily, sun painting Beverly Hills in warm gold, influencers posing outside brunch cafes as if the world existed just to photograph them. For Eric, it felt like an escape from responsibility, from guilt, from the life he'd abandoned in Queens. He told himself he deserved this. He had upgraded. Sienna certainly made sure he believed that. She walked ahead of him into their short-term rental apartment, her heels clicking dramatically on the polished floors. The place was small but staged, with modern chrome furniture, tall windows, and a balcony facing a view he loved pretending he could afford. "Are you done brooding?" Sienna called, tossing her iPhone on the couch as she checked her reflection in the wall mirror. "We've got a brand meeting in an hour." "I'm not brooding," Eric muttered, opening his MacBook Pro at the kitchen counter and pulling up a half-finished pitch deck. The screen brightness reflected the strain in his eyes. "I'm trying to land contracts. You want a lifestyle? Contracts pay for lifestyle." Sienna rolled her eyes. "Contracts pay for your ego. My lifestyle is paid for by my face." She snapped a selfie, pouted, snapped another, then tossed her hair dramatically. The apartment lights caught the shimmer of her designer knockoff earrings, cheap but photogenic. Eric sighed. "Look, I just need a few more days to finalize a deal with a couple of brands. Once I get the cash flow." "Cash flow," she mocked. "You sound like a YouTube finance bro." He stiffened. "I lost my job because my boss sabotaged me." "Phrase?" "No," she said, fluffing her hair. "You lost your job because you were sloppy." Eric's jaw clenched. He hated when she talked like that, like she knew him, like she saw straight through the image he tried so hard to project. But he swallowed the irritation because he needed her. Or at least, he needed her attention, her validation, her popularity. Being with her made him feel like he was somebody. He returned to his laptop. The screen displayed an email marked urgent. Compliance review required from his old firm. He hadn't opened it. He didn't want to. Sienna plopped down beside him. By the way, who's Lauren? Your phone buzzed earlier with a message preview. Eric froze. No one. My ex-C. She'll get over it. Ex, Sienna repeated, eyebrows rising. I thought you guys were just separated. Eric shrugged casually. Technicality. He didn't mention the part about Lauren being pregnant, or the appointment she'd texted him about, or the guilt he tamped down every time he ignored her messages. Sienna twirled a strand of hair. Well, she better not cause drama. I don't need some hormonal ex-wife ruining my brand deals. She won't, he said, too quickly. You sure about that? She asked, raising a brow. Because your phone buzzes, you go pale, and then you act weird for hours. Not exactly alpha behavior. Eric shut his laptop a little too hard. Can we not do this right now? Sienna shrugged, already bored. Whatever, let's go. The brand wants rooftop shots with the city backdrop, and I need you to take pictures. Of course she did. That was his role now. Photographer, cheerleader, wallet in waiting. As they headed out the door, Eric reached for his keys right as his phone lit up again. This time, the notification made his stomach flip. Unknown number. Mr. Dalton. We need to discuss certain irregularities in your past accounts. Failure to respond will lead to further action. His chest tightened. Damn it, Sienna scoffed. Are you coming or what? The lighting waits for no one. He shoved the phone in his pocket, but the text stayed stuck in his mind like a thorn. Something was coming. Something he couldn't charm his way out of. And miles away in New York, the people he had wronged were already preparing the first swing. Because Eric wasn't the only one living in delusion, his downfall had already begun, and he didn't even feel the ground cracking beneath him. The conference room on the 42nd floor of Hayes Capital was made of glass and quiet power. Manhattan stretched below like a glowing map of opportunity and consequences. Lauren had visited this office only twice in her life, both times ending in arguments with her father. Today, she wasn't here to fight. She was here to listen. Or at least try to. Richard stood at the head of the long marble table, posture straight, jaw hard. His presence filled the room like a storm cloud preparing to break. Beside him, Dana Brooks tapped on her tablet, lines of data and reports reflected in her sharp eyes. Every click, every swipe carried purpose. Lauren sat near the windows, hands folded protectively over her belly. She felt out of place among the polished floors, the chrome details, the air filled with the soft hum of high-level business. She had spent years avoiding this world, fearing it would swallow her whole. Now she needed it. Dana cleared her throat. We've completed the preliminary investigation into Eric Dalton. Lauren's stomach twisted at the sound of his name. Dana continued. He's in violation of 3 company policies from his former firm. He mishandled client information. He inflated performance metrics. And he contacted multiple clients privately in an attempt to take them with him. She tapped the tablet again. Which, under corporate law, is grounds for immediate legal action. Richard's expression didn't change, but his eyes hardened. I told you he was ambitious for the wrong reasons. Lauren exhaled shakily. I don't want to ruin his life. I just want him out of mine. Dana looked at her with a softness Lauren didn't expect. This isn't revenge, it's protection. Men like Eric don't go away quietly. They always come back when they think there's something left to take. Lauren said nothing. She knew Dana was right. Eric had already proven his selfishness. Richard gestured to the wall screen. A digital file opened with more documents, emails, chat logs, flagged financial transactions. These came from an anonymous source inside the company, Dana said. Someone who clearly has something against Eric. Lauren stiffened. Someone helping us? Dana's lips pressed together in a thin line. Not exactly. We believe it's someone who wants Eric gone for personal reasons, not moral ones. And that kind of person can't be trusted. Richard leaned forward. Which means we have an unpredictable third party involved. Someone who wants to escalate things. Lauren swallowed. What does this have to do with me? Richard's voice grew softer. Everything. Because if someone else is targeting Eric, they won't stop at him. Anyone connected to him becomes collateral. The room went cold. Lauren's hand drifted to her belly. So you're saying I'm in danger? Dana clicked her tablet. Not physically, but reputationally? Financially? Emotionally? Yes. If Eric collapses publicly, he won't take the fall alone. Men like him drag everyone down with them. Lauren's breath trembled. So what do you want to do? Dana and Richard exchanged a look, a silent, deadly agreement. We take control of the narrative, Dana said, before anyone else does. Richard folded his arms. Your husband left you publicly. He humiliated you publicly. And he is about to be exposed publicly. The only choice we have is whether you stand shaken or you stand unbreakable. Lauren's eyes glistened. Dad, I'm not strong like you. Richard stepped closer. You left this world because you wanted to find your own strength. And you did. You built a life, a career, a marriage, real or not. That takes courage. His voice thickened. You're stronger than you think. Sander. Lauren looked down at her belly, feeling the gentle movement of her baby. Her child deserved a safe future. A mother who wasn't afraid. A life that wasn't built on lies. Finally, she lifted her gaze. What do I have to do? Dana smiled, not a happy smile, but the smile of a general pleased to hear a soldier finally accept the battlefield. It starts with a gala, she said, the biggest one of the year. Every investor, every executive, every public figure will be there. Fool. Lauren's heart pounded. A gala? Richard nodded slowly. Yes. Because, what Eric did in the shadows, we will end in the spotlight. Lauren tried to sleep that night, but the penthouse felt too large, too echoing, too sharp with memories she didn't want to revisit. The bedroom Richard prepared for her was soft and elegant, warm lighting, pale cream linens, a view of Central Park glowing under lampposts. Anyone else might have found it peaceful, but Lauren felt like a guest in a museum. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands cradling the swell of her belly. The baby moved gently, a soft flutter, as if sensing her unrest. I'm okay, she whispered to the small life inside her. I'm trying. I promise I'm trying. But the words cracked in her throat. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She jumped, heart racing, half expecting another cruel message from Eric or some echo of the life that had just shattered. But the notification was only a hospital reminder for her next appointment. Lauren exhaled shakily, clutching the phone like it might anchor her. She rose and walked into the guest sitting area of the suite, an airy space with a velvet sofa, a soft beige rug, and a small reading shelf. She ran her hand along the edge of the shelf and found one of her old sketchbooks tucked between two business books Richard must have placed there years ago. Her name was written on the cover in faded ink. She opened it slowly. Inside were half-finished drawings, city streets, faces of strangers, a small watercolor of her mother's hands, pages of who she used to be, who she might have been if life had broken differently. A tear slid down her face, landing on the paper. She closed the book quickly, pressing it to her chest. Questions kept cycling through her mind. How did everything fall apart so fast? Why hadn't Eric loved her enough to stay? How was she supposed to raise this child alone? How do you protect a baby from heartbreak they will never understand? She felt like a failure, a woman abandoned, a mother who already feared she couldn't protect her child from the world. A quiet knock tapped at the open door. Megan stepped inside holding 2 mugs of warm milk. You weren't answering my texts. I figured you might need company. Lauren tried to smile. It trembled. I didn't want to bother anyone. You're not bothering me, Megan said gently, setting a mug beside her. You've gone through more in 1 week than most people handle in a year. Lauren sighed deeply. I thought I was building a stable life. Just simple. Not rich, not fancy, just ours. And now, Megan said softly, you get to build one that's even better. Lauren shook her head. It doesn't feel better. It feels like I'm drowning. Without hesitation, Megan sat beside her and pulled her into a hug. Lauren pressed her forehead against her friend's shoulder, tears finally spilling ugly, shaking sobs that drained weeks of silence and fear. "I don't want to be strong," Lauren cried. "I'm tired. I'm scared. I'm so tired." "I know," Megan whispered. "But you're still here. And your baby is still here. That means you're stronger than you feel." Lauren pulled back, wiping her face. "Eric chose a rooftop party over me. Over our child. How do I recover from that?" Megan took her hands. "You stop trying to understand broken people. You stop giving love to someone who threw it away. And you let the people who care about you step in." Lauren stared at her for a long moment. "I don't deserve all this help." "Yes," Megan said firmly. "You do. And you're going to need it. Because Richard and Dana are about to start a fight Eric isn't ready for." "Changquan." Lauren looked down at her belly again, breathing slowly. "I don't want a war." "Maybe not," Megan said. "But you do want peace, and sometimes peace comes after someone else fights for you." Lauren closed her eyes, exhausted, resting her head back against the sofa. Tears still clung to her lashes, but her breathing steadied. Across the room, her phone lit up an email notification from an unknown sender. Subject line: "You don't know what Eric's done. But I do." Lauren didn't see it yet. But that message would shatter everything she thought she knew. Because someone else was about to enter the battlefield. Morning sunlight poured through the penthouse windows, stretching across the marble floors like a golden river. But the warmth didn't touch Lauren. She sat at the kitchen island, staring blankly at a bowl of oatmeal. Richard insisted the chef prepare healthy, calming, good for the baby. She had taken 2 bites and felt nothing. Her phone buzzed again. Same unknown sender. Same subject line: "You don't know what Eric's done. But I do." She hadn't opened it last night. She wasn't sure she was strong enough to open it now. Before she could decide, Richard walked in wearing a crisp, dark suit, posture straight, energy sharp. He looked like the man the world feared, the man who made markets shift with a single sentence. But his eyes softened when he saw her. "Morning," he said gently. "How's the baby?" Lauren placed a hand over her belly. "Moving, that's good." Richard nodded, but he could tell something else weighed on her. "You barely touched your breakfast." "I'm trying," she whispered. He didn't push. Instead, he sat across from her, fingers tapping lightly on the polished surface. "Dana and I are moving forward today," he said quietly. "The first strike begins now." Lauren's heart tightened. "Strike? We're not attacking him," Richard clarified. "We're limiting the damage he can do." Just note, Dana entered the kitchen at that moment, tablet under her arm, hair pulled into a no-nonsense bun. "We've frozen Eric's access to all shared accounts, pulled financial reports from his old firm, and filed a formal review request. The compliance board is obligated to investigate him." Lauren tensed. "Won't you think I'm behind this?" Dana gave a half smirk. "Good." Lauren frowned. "That's not what I want." Richard leaned forward. "There's something you need to understand. Men like Eric don't crumble quietly. When the world stops clapping for him, he will look for someone to blame. And that someone will be you." Lauren swallowed hard. Dana continued, clicking her tablet. "His rent in Los Angeles is already overdue. He hasn't paid his credit card bill this month. And 2 clients have filed concerns about his behavior. He's spiraling." A pulse of anxiety hit Lauren. "I don't want to watch him drown." Richard's gaze sharpened. He chose the ocean. 1. Before she could reply, her phone buzzed again, another notification from that unknown email sender. Richard noticed her tense. "What's that?" Lauren hesitated. "I keep getting emails. Someone says they know something about Eric." Dana stepped closer instantly. "Show me." Lauren slid the phone to her. Dana opened the inbox, eyes narrowing. "There's an attachment," Dana said. "A document." Lauren's stomach dropped. "Should we open it?" "Absolutely not on your phone," Richard said firmly. "Forward it to me." Lauren obeyed with trembling fingers. Within seconds, the document glowed on the screen of Richard's laptop. He clicked carefully. A series of messages opened: screenshots, emails, chat logs. Dana leaned in. "Oh my God." Lauren's breath hitched. What is it?" Dana turned the laptop slightly, and there it was. Eric, messaging someone named Grace Litton. Someone Lauren didn't know. The messages were explicit. Calculated. Cruel. Eric discussing how he planned to manipulate investors. How he planned to use Sienna for publicity. And how he planned to milk Lauren for sympathy until the divorce. Lauren's hand flew to her mouth. There were worse lines too. The baby will tie her down. Makes her easier to control. Once the brand deal hits, I'm out. She can keep the kid. She's too emotional to question anything. Lauren shut her eyes, nauseated. Richard stood, pacing. His fury filled the room like a storm about to break. This is more than betrayal. This is character assassination. Manipulation. Exploitation. Dana clicked rapidly. And this woman, Grace, she's been feeding him inside information and encouraging him to leave Lauren. Look at this, she even suggested ways to make Lauren look unstable. Lauren pressed a hand to her belly, trying to steady her breathing. Why would she do that? Dana's eyes narrowed. Because she wanted him. And because people like Grace don't mind destroying someone gentle to get what they want. Lauren felt lightheaded. She leaned against the wall, breath trembling. I can't fight this. I can't handle all this. Richard crossed the room in 2 strides, gripping her shoulders gently. You don't have to. That's why I'm here. She broke, then silent tears sliding down her face, but something else slipped through the cracks this time. Anger. Not rage, not hate, just a quiet realization. Eric hadn't just left her. He had planned it. He had rehearsed it. He had prepared to break her. And he didn't care what happened to their child. Richard looked at Dana. File the documents. Today. Dana nodded sharply. Lauren whispered, voice trembling but steady. Do what you have to do. Because for the first time, she wasn't pleading. She was choosing herself. And that choice would be the beginning of Eric's end. Lauren woke up before dawn the next morning, breathless and drenched in sweat. At first she thought it was another anxiety spike. Her nights had been filled with them lately, but then a sharp pain rolled across her abdomen. Not the soft tightening she'd grown used to. This pain stole her breath. She sat up, clutching the blankets. Not now, she whispered. Please. Not yet. Another contraction hit, harder. The clock read 4:12 a.m. 6 months. Too early. Far too early. She reached for her phone with shaking hands and called Megan. Megan answered instantly. Lauren? What's wrong? I think something's happening, Lauren gasped. It hurts. It really hurts. I'm on my way, Megan said without hesitation. Wake Richard. I'm 10 minutes out. Lauren hung up and forced herself out of bed, gripping the nightstand as another contraction surged. She shuffled down the hallway toward Richard's room, each step feeling like fire. She knocked twice. The door opened immediately. Richard was already awake, already dressed, as if he'd sensed something was wrong. His face drained of color the moment he saw her doubled over. Lauren. It hurts, she whispered, leaning into the wall. Something's wrong. He didn't waste a second. He slipped an arm under her shoulders, the other around her back, supporting her with surprising gentleness for a man who had spent decades dealing with CEOs instead of crises like this. We're going to the hospital, he said, voice calm despite the storm in his eyes. You're okay. I've got you. The elevator ride felt endless. Richard kept a steady hand on her back, murmuring small reassurances she barely heard. When they reached the lobby, his driver was already pulling the Mercedes S-Class to the curb. Straight to Mount Sinai, Richard ordered, helping Lauren into the back seat. And don't stop for anything. The driver nodded, flooring the accelerator. Lauren gripped the leather seat as contractions came faster, harder, making her vision blur. Dad, she whispered, I'm scared. Richard's jaw tightened. I know, but you're strong. And they'll take care of you. You're not alone anymore. His words cracked something open in her, not pain, but relief. For the first time in months, she didn't feel like she was fighting the world by herself. When they arrived, a team of nurses rushed toward them. Richard stayed by her side until she was wheeled into the maternity wing, and even then, he didn't step back. He followed the stretcher, ignoring hospital staff who tried to make him wait. I'm her father, he said simply. I stay. Inside the labor room, lights buzzed overhead, machines hummed, and nurses moved with practiced urgency. Lauren gripped the bed rails as another contraction tore through her. It's too early, she gasped. The doctor entered, calm but brisk. Your contractions are close. The baby's heart rate is fluctuating. We need to monitor both of you closely. If things progress, we may need an emergency C-section. Lauren shook her head, tears spilling. No, he's not ready. The doctor squeezed her hand. We'll do everything we can. Richard stepped closer, taking her other hand. Lauren, look at me. She did. His face was steady, no boardroom armor, no billionaire aura, just a father terrified of losing his daughter and grandchild. You are not doing this alone, he said. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Another contraction hit, and Lauren screamed, the sound ripping through the room. Nurses rushed in, numbers spiking on monitors. The doctor's voice grew firm. We're prepping the OR. We need to deliver this baby. Lauren sobbed. Please keep him safe. Richard's hand tightened around hers. He will be, I promise. Formation. Within minutes, Lauren was wheeled toward the operating room, tears streaming down her face, breaths coming in short, panicked bursts. The hallway lights blurred above her, her vision dimming. Dad, she cried as they pushed her through the OR doors. Don't leave. Richard pressed his hand to the glass window, just before the doors shut. I'm here. I'm right here. The doors slammed closed, and Lauren disappeared into surgery. 2 hours later, a newborn's cry echoed down the hospital corridor. Tiny, fragile, alive. Richard bowed his head, shoulders shaking for the first time in decades. His grandson had been born. But Lauren wasn't waking up yet. Lauren woke to a world blurred by bright hospital lights and muffled voices, her limbs heavy as if she were underwater. Her first instinct was panic the baby. She tried to sit up, but the movement sent pain slicing through her abdomen. A nurse rushed in. Easy, sweetheart, easy. You had an emergency C-section. Lauren blinked rapidly, breath shaking. My baby is he? He's in the NICU, the nurse said gently. He's small, but he's fighting hard. He's strong, just like his mother. Tears streamed silently down Lauren's face. Before she could whisper anything, Richard appeared at the doorway, shoulders sagging with exhausted relief. His eyes, normally steel and calculation, were red-rimmed, softened by worry. He's beautiful, Richard said, voice low. Tiny, but loud. He screamed the moment they touched him. Lauren let out a trembling laugh cry. Can I see him? Soon, the nurse promised. We just need you to rest for a few hours. When the nurse left, Richard stepped closer, placing a hand hesitantly on Lauren's shoulder, as if afraid she might break. You scared me, he admitted quietly. Me too, Lauren whispered. But peace lasted only a few minutes. Because across the country, in a Beverly Hills parking lot, Eric Dalton was checking his phone, and shock twisted into fury as he saw the message from the hospital. Your wife has given birth. Baby in NICU. Please contact us. Eric stared at the screen like it was a betrayal. What the hell? He muttered. Sienna leaned across the passenger seat, chewing gum. Who texted you? The hospital. Lauren had the baby. His voice hardened. Without telling me. Sienna raised an eyebrow. It's not like you two were talking. That's not the point, Eric snapped. Now she's going to play the victim. Everyone's going to think I'm the bad guy. Sienna scoffed. I mean, you kinda are. Eric ignored her. His mind was racing, calculating angles like a man trying to salvage a sinking reputation. Then suddenly, he smirked. Actually, this could work. Sienna frowned. What are you talking about? Public sympathy, Eric said, scrolling through his phone. Everyone loves a devoted father. If I talk about how shocked I am, how heartbroken I am she didn't include me, people will see her as the one being unreasonable. You're not seriously, Sienna started. But it was too late. Eric hit record on his camera. His face instantly softened into an expression he had rehearsed his entire life. Hey everyone, he began, voice cracking just right. I just found out that my wife had our baby, and I wasn't even told. I'm devastated. I wanted to be there. I wanted to support her. I don't know why she shut me out. Sienna watched, stunned. Eric wiped a fake tear. I'm flying back to New York. My son needs me. Please pray for him. He ended the video, edited the lighting, and posted it across every platform. Within minutes, comments poured in. You deserve to see your kid. How could she do that to you? She sounds unstable. Be strong, King. Eric drank it in like gasoline pouring onto a flame. In New York, Megan stormed into Lauren's hospital room, face flushed with outrage. Lauren, she hissed, holding up her phone. You need to see this. Lauren watched in horrified silence as Eric's trembling voice filled the screen. Her heart dropped. No, he didn't. Oh, he did, Megan said. And every gossip page is already resharing it. Richard took Megan's phone, jaw tightening with every second of the video. When it ended, he exhaled slowly, dangerously. He turned your near-death experience into a publicity stunt. Lauren felt dizzy. Why would he do this? Why lie like that? Richard met her eyes. Because he's desperate. And desperate men become reckless. Lauren pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the pressure build again, fear, anger, betrayal mixing like poison. Dad, she whispered, I don't want him near my son. Richard placed a firm hand over hers. He won't be, he said with chilling certainty. Not after what happens next. Because Eric had made one fatal mistake. He tried to manipulate the internet. But he forgot that Richard Hayes owned the truth. 3 days after the birth, Lauren was finally strong enough to sit in a wheelchair and visit the NICU. Her tiny son lay in an incubator under soft blue lights, tubes and monitors surrounding him like a fragile shield. She pressed her hand to the glass, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. He's fighting, the nurse whispered. Just like his mom. What? Lauren smiled weakly, but the peace she felt cracked the moment her phone vibrated with an incoming message. Eric Dalton, we need to talk. Today. In person. Her stomach dropped. She knew it was coming. Richard saw the tension in her face. Do you want me to handle it? No. Lauren whispered, eyes never leaving her baby. I need to hear what he has to say. I need to see who he really is. Richard nodded reluctantly. Dana will be nearby. I'll have security watch the area. Junt? Lauren agreed. She didn't want escalation, she wanted clarity. Closure. Control. Hours later, bundled in a coat, she sat inside a quiet cafe near Central Park. Snow flurried outside, melting against the window in soft crystals. The place smelled like roasted beans and warm pastries, a comforting place for an uncomfortable truth. Her hands trembled as she gripped a warm tea, watching the door. Then he walked in. Eric scanned the cafe, spotted her, and approached with a self-righteous energy that made Lauren's skin crawl. He wore a new jacket, expensive looking, but clearly bought with money he didn't have. His hair was styled like he'd spent an hour trying to appear disheveled in an I'm suffering sort of way. Lauren, he breathed dramatically as he took the seat across from her. You look tired. Lauren stared. I had major surgery. And our son is fighting for his life. Done. Eric winced, as if her tone offended him. Well, that's actually what I came to talk about. She braced herself. He folded his hands, lowering his voice like a martyr. Why didn't you tell me you were going into labor? I had to find out through the hospital. And now the internet thinks I abandoned you. Lauren's heart pounded not from fear, but anger. Eric, you did abandon me. You left. You said you didn't want the baby. Papo. That's not what I meant, he snapped, frustration creeping into his eyes. You twist things. You always twist things. Lauren blinked. I went into labor because of stress, because of everything you did. Eric leaned forward. And I'm trying to fix that. I'm trying to make us look good publicly. Lauren stiffened. Publicly? He nodded, lowering his voice. If you support my video, if you say we're working through things, people will stop attacking you. They'll think you're a united front with me. Lauren couldn't breathe for a moment. He wasn't here for their son. He wasn't here for her. He was here for his image. Eric, she whispered, voice trembling with disbelief. My baby is in an incubator. Our baby, he corrected quickly. Which is why I should have rights. Custody. Influence. If people think I abandoned a sick newborn, my career is over. Lauren's jaw dropped. You're thinking about your career? Eric leaned closer, dropping his voice dangerously. If you don't help me fix this, I will tell the court you're unstable. I'll tell them you hid the birth from me. I will get custody. Lauren's heart slammed against her ribs. He wasn't bluffing. He would do it. He would destroy her to save himself. She stared at him. This man she once loved, now sitting across from her with entitlement dripping from every word. "You really think," Lauren said quietly, "that you threaten me and walk away with anything?" Eric smirked. "You're alone now. You don't have money. You don't have a job. You're weak, Lauren. And weak people don't win custody." Lauren inhaled slowly, then set her cup down. "My father," she said softly, "is Richard Hayes." Eric's smile froze. Lauren held his chaza, voice steady. "And weak people don't win against him." Eric went pale. For the first time, he finally understood who he had been fighting. And panic flickered in his eyes. Eric's face drained of color so fast, it was almost alarming. His lips parted, but no sound came out. It was the first time Lauren had seen him speechless, not confused, not irritated, but genuinely frightened. "Richard Hayes," he repeated, voice barely a whisper. Your father is Richard Hayes?" Lauren didn't blink. "Yes." Eric swallowed hard. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want a marriage built on money," she answered quietly. "I wanted one built on loyalty, on love, on the things you threw away." Eric leaned back, running a shaky hand through his hair, as if the truth had knocked the wind out of him. "This changes things." "No," Lauren said, her voice turning steel. "It only changes things for you." Before Eric could respond, the cafe door opened, letting in a cold gust of winter air, and Dana Brooks stepped inside, wearing a tailored coat and an expression sharp enough to cut glass. A black car idled outside, and Lauren didn't need to look to know Richard had sent her. Dana approached their table with unhurried steps. "Mr. Dalton," she said flatly, "we have a lot to discuss." Eric stiffened. "Who are you?" "Dana Brooks," she replied, "COO of Hayes Capital, and the person who now controls more leverage over your life than you probably want to imagine." Eric glanced between the two women, panic rising behind his eyes. Dana placed a folder on the table and slid it toward him. "Inside, you'll find a list of every violation, every client complaint, every financial inconsistency you so carelessly left behind. Enough to blacklist you from Wall Street, corporate marketing, and every financial institution that values ethical practice." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want a marriage built on money," she answered quietly. "I wanted one built on loyalty, on love, on the things you threw away." Eric leaned back, running a shaky hand through his hair, as if the truth had knocked the wind out of him. "This changes things." "No," Lauren said, her voice turning steel. "It only changes things for you. You're threatening yourself. We're offering you an exit." Lauren felt the truth settle in her chest, heavy, painful, but necessary. Eric's hands shook. "You can't just buy the law." Dana smirked. "We don't buy the law, Mr. Dalton. We follow it. And the law is very clear about fraud and abandonment." Eric leaned forward, voice breaking. "Lauren, please. You can't let them do this to me. You know I'm not a bad guy." Lauren held his gaze. "A good man doesn't leave his pregnant wife. A good man doesn't celebrate on a rooftop while she cries in an empty apartment. A good man doesn't use an innocent baby for social media sympathy." Eric opened his mouth, but Lauren wasn't done. "And a good father," she said softly, "doesn't threaten custody to save his reputation." Eric's shoulders dropped. He looked small, defeated. A man who had gambled everything and never imagined losing. "We'll contact you with the hearing date," Dana said, standing. "And and the person who now controls more leverage over your life than you probably want to imagine." Eric glanced between the two women, panic rising behind his eyes. Dana placed a folder on the table and slid it toward him. "Inside, you'll find a list of every violation, every client complaint, every financial inconsistency you so carelessly left behind. Enough to blacklist you from Wall Street, corporate marketing, and every financial institution that values ethical practice. Dalton, you may want to stay off social media for a while." Eric looked up sharply. "Why?" Dana smiled thinly. "Because you're about to see what real influence looks like." Lauren rose slowly, bracing herself on the arm of the chair. Dana helped her, protective but discreet. Eric stood too, looking like he was about to fall apart. "Lauren," he pleaded one last time, "can't we fix this? For the baby?" She looked at him with a calm he didn't deserve. And who Eric truly is, Dana added. Lauren climbed into the warm leather seat. For the first time, she didn't feel afraid of the storm ahead. She was starting to understand that she wasn't just part of Richard's plan. She was becoming the center of it. The Plaza Hotel shimmered like a jewel that night, its golden chandeliers blazing through tall windows, its marble floors gleaming like polished ice. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Mercedes, black SUVs, chauffeured sedans. Paparazzi clustered outside the velvet ropes, cameras flashing as Manhattan's elite stepped onto the red carpet in gowns and tuxedos. Inside, the ballroom felt like another world. Soft orchestra music filled the air. Champagne tower glimmered. Guests in designer suits murmured about stock markets, new investment rounds, and winter galas in the Hamptons. This was the arena Richard Hayes ruled. And tonight, it was the stage he had chosen for truth. Lauren stood near a pillar draped in gold satin, her hands folded over her stomach, breath steadying. She wore a simple but elegant dark blue gown, nothing extravagant, nothing loud. Just soft fabric, a clean silhouette, and a single delicate diamond necklace Richard had given her years ago. She hadn't worn diamonds since leaving this world, but tonight, she allowed one small piece of her past to rest against her heart. "You look perfect," Megan whispered beside her. "Not flashy, not hidden, just you." Lauren smiled nervously. "I don't know if I'm ready." Dana approached, clipboard in hand, headset tucked behind one ear, coordinating staff like a general preparing troops. "You're ready," Dana said. "And don't worry, we're controlling every camera angle in this room." "That doesn't comfort me," Lauren murmured. "It should," Dana said. "Eric's downfall begins the moment you walk on that stage." Lauren inhaled, slow and steady. "I don't want it to be cruel." "I too." "It isn't cruel," Dana replied. "It's honest." As guests mingled, a ripple of whispers traveled across the ballroom. Because Eric Dalton had arrived. He stepped inside wearing a rented tuxedo, trying desperately to blend in, trying even harder to appear confident. But the moment he saw the towering chandeliers, the glittering gowns, the billionaires he once idolized, panic flickered in his eyes. Sienna clung to his arm, wearing a silver dress clearly chosen to attract cameras. But her shoulders stiffened as she sensed the energy in the room, people looking, but not with admiration, with suspicion. "Where's the PR team?" Sienna whispered anxiously. "Why aren't people coming to talk to us?" Eric swallowed. "They must not know we're here." "They know," a man murmured as he passed them, his voice low, disapproving. Eric turned sharply, but the man was already gone. Sienna's grip tightened. "Eric, something's wrong." "One." Before he could respond, the announcer's voice rang out. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our primary sponsors of the evening, Richard Hayes and his daughter, Miss Lauren Hayes Dalton." The ballroom erupted in applause. Eric froze. He turned toward the stage just as a spotlight illuminated Lauren. She stepped into the light with quiet grace, blue gown flowing softly, face calm, shoulders strong. She wasn't the broken woman he left in a small Queens apartment. She looked whole, powerful, but gentle. He stared, stunned. "Lauren?" Sienna's jaw fell open. She's Hayes' daughter." Eric felt the air leave his lungs. On stage, Richard joined Lauren, placing a hand on her back, protective, proud, unmistakably supportive. Cameras flashed wildly. Guests murmured. Influencers shouted to each other, phones already recording. Lauren stepped to the microphone, composed. "Thank you for being here tonight. This gala is about resilience, about rebuilding lives with honesty and compassion." Her voice didn't tremble. Then the screens behind her lit up. Dana had timed it perfectly. A slideshow began. At first, it looked like charity photos until the images shifted to screenshots of Eric's messages with Grace Litton. Message after message. Eric manipulating clients, plotting to use Lauren's pregnancy, laughing about Sienna's ignorance, calling Lauren weak and useful for sympathy. Then, gasps filled the ballroom. Eric staggered back. "No, this is taken out of context." Sienna dropped his arm like it was burning her. "You used me?" Guests stepped away from him, as if he carried a contagion. Lauren didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply watched the truth play across the screens, calm, dignified, unbroken. Dana's voice echoed over the speaker system. "Transparency matters. Character matters. And tonight, the truth matters most. Security approached Eric quietly. "Mr. Dalton, the board has asked that you step outside." Eric shook his head, desperation rising. Lauren, please. Tell them I'm not this isn't. You can't do this." Lauren met his eyes for the first time. "I didn't do anything, Eric." Her voice was soft. "You did." Security took him by the arms. Sienna stepped back, crossing her arms. "We're done." Eric watched Lauren as he was escorted out, face pale, disbelief crumbling into horror. The ballroom applauded Lauren's composure. But beneath her calm exterior, her heart trembled not with fear. With closure. For the first time, she saw that she didn't lose a man. She escaped one. And the whole world had finally seen the truth. Word count. 604 words. Eric stumbled into the cold night air outside the plaza, his breath coming in ragged bursts as security released him onto the sidewalk. Flashbulbs exploded around him, paparazzi sensing blood in the water. His tuxedo hung crooked, his hair disheveled, his face flushed with humiliation. He tried to shield himself. "No comment." "Back off," I said, "no comment." But reporters didn't back off. "Eric, is it true you manipulated clients? Did you really abandon your pregnant wife? Who is Grace Litton? Is she part of the scandal? Why did Hayes Capital expose you tonight?" Each question slammed into him like a stone. He spun around, desperate, searching for someone, anyone to help him. But there was no one. Sienna had disappeared the moment the screens lit up. The influencers who once posed beside him looked away. Even the event staff refused to meet his eyes. He was radioactive now, untouchable, destroyed. "Eric." The low, controlled voice froze him. Richard Hayes stood near the curb, hands in his coat pockets, posture calm but intimidating as a shadow stretching across a battlefield. His expression held no anger, only the icy composure of a man who had already won. Eric swallowed hard. "Mr. Hayes, sir, please. This wasn't fair. You blindsided me." "No," Richard said quietly. "You blindsided my daughter." Eric's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Richard stepped closer. So close, Eric could see his own panicked reflection in the older man's steely eyes. "You left her. You humiliated her. You lied about her. You endangered her pregnancy. And then you exploited her suffering for sympathy online." Eric trembled. "I didn't mean." "You meant every word," Richard said sharply. "And now the world knows it." Eric's voice cracked. "She ruined my career." "No," Richard corrected. "You ruined your own. Lauren simply stopped protecting you from the consequences." Richard turned away, but Eric lurched forward, desperation clawing at his voice. "What about my son? I still have rights. Richard faced him again, expression hardening. "You will sign the custody agreement, fully. Without revision." "So." "I won't," Eric spat. "You can't make me." "On the contrary," Richard said. "I can make one phone call that ensures every potential employer sees your name flagged for ethics violations. I can hand over your messages to federal investigators. I can ensure you cannot get a single job above minimum wage for the next 20 years. Eric's face crumpled in horror. Richard's tone softened, not with mercy, but finality. "But if you sign the agreement quietly, I will let you disappear with whatever dignity you have left." Before Eric could respond, 2 board members stepped outside, accompanied by legal staff. One handed Eric a document, the official notice of his permanent blacklisting. Another handed him a USB drive. "Copies of all your messages," the man said coldly. "Your lawyer will receive a full file Monday." Eric took it with shaking hands. He wasn't fighting one man. He was fighting an empire. He backed away, eyes darting wildly. "You're monsters," he whispered. "All of you." Richard didn't flinch. "No, Eric. We just don't tolerate grown men who prey on women who love them." Eric's chest heaved. For a moment he looked like he might attack Richard, but fear won. He turned and fled into the night, slipping past paparazzi like a hunted animal. The cameras followed him. Richard didn't. He simply slipped his phone from his coat and sent a message. "It's done. Bring Lauren home." Back in the ballroom, Lauren stood in a quiet alcove, watching her reflection tremble in a gold-framed mirror. She wasn't crying, but her body buzzed with adrenaline, disbelief, and something close to release. Dana approached slowly. It's handled. Lauren turned, breath unsteady. Is it over? Dana nodded. The worst of it. Lauren exhaled, shoulders softening. I didn't want it to be cruel. It wasn't cruel, Dana said. It was truth. And truth is sometimes the best justice. See. Lauren hugged herself gently. I just want to go see my son. Dana smiled. Richard already has the car waiting. Lauren took one last look at the ballroom, where people whispered not about a scandal, but about her strength. For the first time since everything began, she didn't feel broken. She felt becoming. She stepped forward. The night behind her, her child ahead. And somewhere deep in her heart, a small, quiet space opened, ready for something new. Snow dusted the city overnight, settling softly on Central Park like a blanket meant for calmer days. By morning, the hospital windows glowed with the muted light of winter dawn. Lauren sat quietly beside the incubator in the NICU, her hand resting against the glass. Her son, so small, so fragile, squirmed beneath the warm lights, fighting in that instinctive way newborns do. Her eyes softened. You're safe now, she whispered. I promise you'll never face what I did. Then, a gentle knock sounded behind her. Richard stood in the doorway, a paper cup of warm tea in his hand. He moved quietly, not wanting to disturb the baby's steady beeping monitor. I didn't want to interrupt, he said softly. Lauren smiled faintly. You never interrupt. He set the tea beside her. How's our little warrior? He's stronger today, she said proudly. The doctor said he's responding well to treatment. Richard nodded, relief flickering across his face. Good. That's good. For a moment, they simply watched the tiny chest rise and fall. Then Lauren spoke softly, her voice almost too fragile to push through the quiet room. Dad, thank you. Richard turned to her, surprised. For what? For everything, she whispered. For coming back, for fighting for me, for not letting me drown. Richard's eyes softened, guilt flickering beneath the surface. Lauren, I should have been there sooner. I should have guilt. No, she cut in gently. You were there when it mattered. 5. Silence wrapped around them, warm now, not heavy. A nurse entered, checking the baby's vitals. He's stable, she said happily. You're doing everything right, Mom. Mom. Lauren blinked at the word, her throat tightening. She had survived betrayal, abandonment, fear, premature labor, and now she sat here, watching her son fight his own battle with a strength that humbled her. She touched the glass again. I didn't think I could do this. Yes, you did. A voice said behind them. Lauren turned and smiled as Megan stepped in, still in her nurse scrubs, a Starbucks cup in each hand. I brought reinforcements, Megan said, handing Lauren the warm drink. Figured you could use something stronger than hospital tea. Lauren let out a breathy laugh. You show up everywhere. That's my job, Megan said brightly. Professional best friend. Richard smirked. She takes that role very seriously. Megan nudged him lightly. Someone has to keep this family functional. Hawa. They all chuckled softly, careful not to disturb the baby. But then Megan's smile softened as she leaned down beside Lauren. You did something impossible, you know. You walked through hell, and you didn't let it break you. Lauren swallowed hard. I didn't walk through it alone. No, Megan agreed. You didn't. But you stood through it. And that's something. Lauren stared at her son, emotion gathering in her chest. I thought last night would destroy me. It didn't, Megan said. It rebuilt you. Before Lauren could respond, the NICU door opened again. Dana stood there this time without her tablet or headset, just a soft, tired expression. Is this a bad time? She asked. Lauren shook her head. No. Come in. Dana approached slowly, hands clasped. I came to tell you. The board accepted the full custody agreement. Eric signed it this morning. Lauren froze. He signed it? Dana nodded. No revisions. No dispute. He's gone. Lauren's breath trembled, not from sadness, not even from relief, but from the weight lifting off her shoulders. Thank you, she whispered. Dana smiled slightly. Don't thank me. You earned this peace. Richard placed a hand on Lauren's back. You're free now. Free. The word landed like sunlight. For the first time since everything collapsed, She felt something warm bloom inside her chest, hope, small but steady. It rebuilt you. Before Lauren could respond, the NICU door opened again. Dana stood there this time without her tablet or headset, just a soft, tired expression. "Is this a bad time?" she asked. Lauren shook her head. "No. Come in." Dana approached slowly, hands clasped. "I came to tell you. The board accepted the full custody agreement. Eric signed it this morning." Lauren froze. "He signed it?" Dana nodded. "No revisions. No dispute. He's gone." Lauren's breath trembled. "Hawa." They all chuckled softly, careful not to disturb the baby. But then Megan's smile softened as she leaned down beside Lauren. "You did something impossible, you know. You walked through hell, and you didn't let it break you." Lauren swallowed hard. "I didn't walk through it alone." "No," Megan agreed. "You didn't. But you stood through it. And that's something." Lauren stared at her son, emotion gathering in her chest. "I thought last night would destroy me." "It didn't," Megan said. She turned back to the incubator, watching her son stretch his tiny fingers as if reaching for the world. "I'm going to give you a good life," she whispered. "A real one." Behind her, Megan, Dana, and Richard stood quietly, support surrounding her like a shield she never had before. Lauren inhaled deeply. The storm was passing, and something new, something gentle and strong, was beginning to take shape in the quiet hours of that hospital room. She wasn't just surviving, she was healing. Inside was a small silver rattle, engraved with her initials on one side and room for another name on the other. For her child. Tears filled her eyes, not painful ones, but healing. "Dad," she would loved him. Richard nodded, voice thickening. She would have adored him. They stood there, memories and new beginnings, mixing quietly between them. The room felt full, not with sorrow, but with family. The kind she'd longed for. The kind she was rebuilding. A knock sounded, and Megan entered. Her hair messy from a long shift, but her smile bright as ever. "Is my favorite baby awake?" she asked, shuffling over with a bag of pastries. Lauren laughed softly. "He just woke up." Megan peeked at the newborn and melted instantly. "He looks better every day. Look at those cheeks." Behind her, Dana walked in, this time not in business attire, but a cozy winter coat and scarf. She carried a binder under one arm, but her expression was softened by genuine affection. "Sorry to interrupt," Dana said, "but we finalized everything with the court." Lauren stiffened, old instincts, old fears. "It's good news," Dana assured her. "Eric has legally relinquished all parental rights. He's barred from contacting you, and your son carries the Hayes name." A wave of relief washed over Lauren, deep, cleansing, final. "It's really over," she whispered. Dana nodded. "It's over." "Dumb." Lauren sat down slowly, cradling her son against her chest. For the first time in months, her breaths came evenly. No shaking, no dread, only calm. "He'll never grow up wondering if he was wanted," she said softly. "Because he's loved, completely." Megan pressed a hand to Lauren's shoulder. "And he's surrounded by family, a real one." Richard, who had been quietly watching his daughter, stepped closer. "Lauren, I want you to come home. Not because you need help, but because I want you here. I want us to start over." Lauren looked down at her son, tiny, safe, sleeping in her arms. Then she looked up at her father. There was no pride now, no stubbornness, only warmth. "I'd like that," she said gently. Richard's face broke into the softest smile she'd ever seen from him. They stayed like that, quiet, content, surrounded by people who loved her, until a knock came at the door again. This time, when it opened, a tall man stepped inside holding a bouquet of simple white flowers. He wore a modest winter coat and a shy, respectful smile. It was Ethan, the NICU pediatrician who had cared for her son from day one. "Sorry," he said, cheeks flushing slightly. "Your nurse said you were up for visitors." Lauren smiled. "Of course. Come in." He approached slowly, eyes warm, gentle. "I just wanted to check on both of you. He's a fighter, but so is his mom, Shan." Lauren felt her heart flutter, unexpected, soft, new. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan hesitated, then extended the bouquet. "These are for you. A little celebration for making it through the storm." Lauren accepted them, cheeks warming. Their fingers brushed just briefly, but enough to send a quiet spark through her chest. Outside, snow drifted lightly past the window. Inside, warmth bloomed, steady, promising. Her son stirred softly, sighing against her. Megan grinned. Dana smirked knowingly. Richard raised an approving eyebrow. And Lauren, for the first time in a long time, felt something like joy take root in her heart. She whispered to her son, "We're going to be just fine." Because the storm had passed. Her future was wide open, and life finally was hers again. A real ending. A real beginning. And that's how the story closes, my dear friends. If you're still here with me right now, it means something in this journey touched your heart in a quiet, personal way. Maybe it reminded you of your own strength. Maybe it reminded you of the storms you've survived. Or maybe, like Lauren, you're learning that healing begins the moment you choose yourself again. Life doesn't always give us fairness, but it always gives us a chance to rise. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle is the way." Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every night you think you can't go on, those moments don't break you, they build you. They shape the person you're becoming. And sometimes, letting go of what hurt you is the first real step toward peace. What Lauren discovered is something we all need to remember. You don't need perfect strength. You just need courage for the next breath, the next decision, the next sunrise. And if this story made you feel seen, understood, or simply a little less alone, then stay with us. Like this video, share it with someone who may need it, and subscribe to the channel so we can keep walking through these stories, these lessons of life together. You matter. Your story matters. And your healing is already on its way.